You are listening to Hilary Topper on Air. And now, here's your host, Hilary Topper.
Welcome to Hilary Topper on Air. Whether you're crushing your business goals, training for your next big race, or just trying to navigate the everyday hurdles of life, you are in the exact right place. I'm your host, Hilary Topper, and this is a show that dives deep into life, business, endurance sports, and absolutely everything in between. Before we jump into today's conversation, I want to take a quick second to thank the incredible sponsors who make this show possible. First, a big thank you to the Russo Law Group. They are Long Island's signature elder law, estate planning, and special needs law firm. They provide the expert guidance and peace of mind you need so that you can focus on what matters most. We are also brought to you by PlayTry. If you love swim, bike, and run, this is your premier destination. With stores across the country, PlayTry caters specifically to endurance athletes, making sure you have exactly what you need to conquer your next starting line. Today, we're focusing on the cutting edge tools that are transforming how athletes train and race. Joining me today is Brady Hoover from TriDot and RunDot platforms that are revolutionizing endurance coaching and training. As a certified coach with TriDot, I'm especially excited to talk with Brady about RaceX, what it is, how it works, and the incredible benefits it offers to athletes of all levels. So, Brady, welcome to the show. It's so good to have you here.
Hey, Hillary. Oh, it's great to be back. I'm so excited to be here today.
So, for those of who are listening who are not familiar with TriDot and RunDot, can you just give a brief overview of both and your role in all of this?
Yep. So TriDot RunDot. So what it stands for is dot actually stands for something. So on triathlon, it's triathlon. So try data optimized training, and then on RunDot, it's run data optimized training. So what that is we provide AI driven training programs tailored to you, the individual athlete, that meets you where you're at, and progresses you from there. So it's changing dynamically based on the workouts that you're not doing, to keep you on track for whatever race it is that you're trying to get to. If you're not doing a race, then the goal of TriDot or RunDot is to make you faster, stronger athlete. We call that the development phase of training, and I say that's the most important phase. Well, they're both important, but I say that's a more important phase because athletes always want to get a little bit faster or improve upon their previous years, and that's the time where we actually get stronger for next season.
So, how is TriDot and RunDot different than some of the other training platforms on the market?
So it's data optimized training. So TriDot was actually founded about 20 years ago. So before it was even a platform, our CEO Jeff Boer, he knew he was he was a triathlete himself, and then he got competitive, and then he has a family, and he thought, hmm, I'm competitive. I want to do the least amount of work, but the most amount of work I can to stay competitive while balancing out work, a family, lifestyle, and all of those other things. So that was where the idea was born from. So he started collecting data. He was collecting data on just a bunch of individuals at the time, some of his teams that he was coaching, youth teams, adult teams, and just collecting the data. Then he fed it into a system and started trying to find out what workouts would progress athletes the best, by age, gender. So ours is truly driven on data. Where some of the other platforms out there, the coach is still programming for the athlete. They're doing it based on philosophy, where ours is data driven. Our coaches do have the ability I always give like an athlete orientation and I show them everything it does and the ins and outs, and look at me and they kind of have that look like a deer in the headlights, like, okay, if the training system does all this, what do you do as a coach? Well, a coach can manage the training, can manage the load, make adjustments. The one thing that, AI can't do yet is it can't make those real life adjustments. So that I didn't sleep well last night, coach. What should I do? One night of sleep, maybe you can still do the workout. You get sick, okay, what do I do? Everyone recovers from illness, right? You could put illness into an AI model, but everyone recovers from the common cold differently. Some athletes, if it's, just above the neck, they can go they can train hard. Other athletes, they're still laid out in bed, even if it's just above the neck. So what is illness? It's different for everybody, and their, recovery for getting back on track is different. So there's a number of factors there. So those are things that a coach can do in real time. And then TriDot and RunDot is always balancing that, that risk benefit ratio, trying to, get you better results in less time with fewer injuries. Um, and sometimes athletes are saying, I don't see a lot of zone five in my training cycle. Why is that? Well, because it's higher stress. Is the risk of that worth the reward? That's where a coach can come in and can override some of the training that's being prescribed smartly, hopefully, to meet that athlete where they're at, help push them a little bit further. But because they have that communication with the coach knows how to balance their training if, some red flags tend to arise. If I was to do that for an athlete, I tell them, the kind of the warning signs. Here's what I want you to report if you start having trouble falling asleep at night, getting restful sleep, you're feeling more tired than usual, the workouts later on in the week are feeling harder than they normally would, those kind of things. And then I can jump in there and intervene.
Hmm. So cool. So let's dive into RaceX.
Yeah.
For those who haven't heard about it, what exactly is RaceX and how does it fit into the TriDot ecosystem?
Yep. So I like to say we have two systems in TriDot. It's all bundled into one, but we have our training side, which is the TriDot training, and then we have RaceX, which is the racing side. RaceX is what drives part of the training or drives the race preparation phase. So RaceX, it's an app within the app. So that is where you're going to put any races that you are doing in the foreseeable future. Without a race in there, as I mentioned earlier, the first thing you're going to see when you fill out an athlete profile and you onboard yourselves is you're going to start seeing workouts. And athletes always ask, well, what are the workouts training me for? Well, without a race on there, it's training you for speed and power. So it's meeting you where you're at. And its goal is to get you faster in the pool, get those bike watts up, get you faster in that 5K. Now, once you go over to the RaceX side and you add a race, well, then it's working backwards. It's seeing the athlete that you are today, where that race is. We'll just use Maine 70.3 because that's on the horizon. I'm here in Massachusetts and I'm doing that race myself along with a few of my athletes and some other TriDot coaches. So it'd be a good time. So I like to use that one for an example just because it's in the forefront. So I decided on that in like November. So the first thing I did once I signed up is I went into RaceX and I put in that race. The next thing that TriDot is doing within RaceX is it's looking at my training stress profile, it's looking at me, my age, my gender, and it's making some predictions as to if I follow the TriDot training between now and race day, which is in August, or sorry, end of July, here's what I can expect to do in the swim, the bike, and the run. So it's actually giving me not where I am today, but where I will be in the future. So it gives me a time. I really like that time. And then I decided, oh, I'm going to run the Boston Marathon. So within RaceX, I could put the Boston Marathon in there. I could put it in as an A race, a B race, or a C race, right? An A race is that big kahuna, something like the Boston Marathon. Maybe I want to peak and taper for. I actually, because it fell in the race preparation window of Maine, I actually added it as a B race because I care more about my performance in Maine than I do in Boston. Reason being, I'm qualified for Boston for next year for 2027. So I just want to get enough fitness to complete the race. I have no time goal, but I really don't want to take away from my performance potential um, for Maine 70.3. So I was curious, so I actually added Boston in first as an A race to see how it would impact, right? Because TriDot's doing this in real time. So I liked my prediction. I was like 4 hours and 40 minutes for Maine. As soon as I added Boston as an A race, guess what happened, Hillary? My prediction got slower for Maine. What happened?
Yeah.
Like, why am I going to be slower? Ah, that's where the magic happens. I'm losing development time. From November until March, prior to me adding Boston, I was in a race preparation, or sorry, a development phase,
Mm,
focusing on speed and power. Then in March, now it's more focused on we care about speed and power, but not so much. We care more about stamina, not how fast you can go, but for how long you can go without slowing down. So then I have my preparation for Maine is 16 weeks. Now, what happened when I added Boston as an A race? My race preparation phase actually started at the beginning of January now.
wow.
So that means I'm missing 90 days of development work because I'm going to start building stamina in January versus March. So I said, well, Boston is just finished. There's no pressure. I can't control the weather of Boston. It could be cold, it could be hot. So I like to just finish
Mm-hmm.
Boston. So I said, nope, I'm going to add this in as a B race. The B race made it like 2 minutes slower. It went from a 440 to a 442 because I'm going to have a little bit of a taper and a recovery window for Boston. Whereas again, with that A race, it lengthened my race preparation time, but it also gave me a 3 week taper into Boston and about a 12-day recovery. So all of a sudden, I'm missing 5 weeks of training
Wow.
to get ready, stamina training to get ready for Maine. So that has an effect, right? So now athletes are able to do this on their own. They can do that A/B test of, what happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? And it also can help us steer the conversation with an athlete when they're trying to be selective about their races. Coach, I want to do all of these races. I say, great. Great. I'm glad I want you to race. I want you to do those races once a month. But let's talk about priorities here and let's talk about the impact that can have. Like, what is your biggest goal for, in the next 6 months? What's your biggest goal? And then 6 months beyond that, do you have another goal? Most athletes do. Um, and here's my thoughts, right? And you can steer the conversation that way on the cause and effect. Some athletes, no, I just want to taper for each event. I want to finish. I want to get there fresh. And other athletes are looking for performance. I kind of want to qualify for worlds. So I want to throw all my marbles at that race, and I don't want a longer race preparation window. So that's something that RaceX is doing. It's able to predict the course, but it's also steering my training. It knows that Maine, especially the bike course, is rather hilly with about 4,000 feet of climbing.
Mm,
So when I hit that race preparation phase, I know I'm going to get some ugly looking workouts, but I have to keep in mind that's because I'm climbing a lot of hills. I'll see a lot of, an athlete will see on a hillier course, they'll see a lot of zone 4 time. With a lot of zone 3 time, in the back end of that workout, it's just those long, grueling zone 4 workouts. And I look at them and I'm like, oh, geez, these are going to be so tough. But then I know that the reward on the other side is I'll be fully prepared to climb those hills.
right. Exactly.
So that's
So does RaceX use all of the data or just the data that you put from the time trials that you do throughout the course of RunDot or TriDot?
Yep. Good question. So TriDot and RunDot, if we were talking about just running, it's going to set up a training stress profile on the athlete. And it's going to look in at first, without any data, it's looking at age and gender and years in sport. And then because there's a lot of data on athletes that are that age and gender, able to make some predictions as to where we expect them to be 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, based on historical training data from other athletes like this athlete. As soon as you start completing workouts or not, that training stress profile is going to go up or down, slowly over time, and it's going to adjust. Um, so then it's going to get a little bit more accurate. So at first it might look like, oh, it's a big PR. That doesn't look right. But maybe the athlete answered the questions incorrectly in their onboarding process. And as soon as they do that first round of assessments, like you said, and it gets corrected, oh, okay, now it's 30 minutes slower. This is where I'm at. It's able to predict that assuming you're doing the training, You're getting a 76 or better on your training execution. That means how well you're sticking to the prescribed workouts. This is where we can expect you to be on race day.
Interesting. Now, what happens when you go into RaceX and your race isn't there? There are a
Yeah.
lot of Ironman races, 70.3s, bigger races, but a lot of the smaller races aren't there.
Yeah, a lot of races aren't on there. So I say the bigger ones. Your world majors are going to be in there for RunDot and TriDot as well. Your Ironman events, your T100 events. That's pretty much all that's in that database. So as you're going to add a race, you're still able to select, the first thing that you'll see is, what distance is it? Is it a 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon, sprint, Olympic, half Ironman, Ironman? As soon as you select, oh, we're doing it, we'll just use or we'll use Patriot 70.3. That's here in Massachusetts. So maybe I'm doing that, let's say in June. When I selected the half Ironman, there'll be a drop-down menu that says find your race. And then right below that, it says my race isn't listed, which is a majority of races. So then you click that, my race isn't listed, and then you just follow the prompts through. The only difference in that flow is we don't have the elevation profiles for those courses. So the athlete can upload those after they add that race. So that's the next thing that I do is I add that Patriot 70.3. I go to their website. I would say about 50% of races have the course map on there in a downloadable file. The file we're looking for is a GPX.
Hmm.
If it's not there, the next thing I'm doing is I'm going to Garmin Connect and I'm going to courses. And then I'm looking this is in Freetown, Massachusetts. So I'm looking at Freetown, Massachusetts, and then I'm filtering for a bike course from 55 to 57 miles. And 98% of the time, that little trick finds it. I download the file and then I upload it to RaceX. And then I have that prediction, and then it knows, oh, Patriot's a flat course. You don't need as much zone 4. We'll give you a little bit of zone 4, but a lot of zone 3 for this race because it's a pretty flat race in comparison to Maine. So that will again drive the training. So it's just a little extra step when it's not in the database.
So one of the things I've noticed as a coach is how RaceX helps athletes optimize their performance. Can you share some of the key benefits RaceX offers to athletes, whether they're beginners or seasoned athletes?
Yeah, yeah, I can spend a whole day on this part. Um, so um, for your beginner athlete, when you put in a race, it's going to give you the biggest thing, your race prediction, right? It's going to tell you how long it estimates based on your swim pace currently today, where it expects you to be on race day, and how long it's going to take you to complete that swim portion. So you know roughly, am I going to make that swim cutoff or am I not? Oh, I'm going to be a half hour above the swim cutoff. Great. Um, Also lets you know how long you're going to be on the bike course and the run course. It helps suggest pacing as well, especially first timers when they're coming in tapered and fresh. There's that tendency to feel great after the swim, get on the bike. Oh, my heart rate's nice and low. This feels easy. This feels nothing like it did in training. I can push a little bit harder, and they deviate away from their plan. And then what happens, they get to mile 40 in the bike and the hurt starts to come in and they start thinking, oh my gosh, now I got to do a half marathon run after this. Oh no, what did I do? So RaceX is able to suggest targets. If the athlete has a power meter, they're going to have a power plan. And that power plan is going to take into account the elevation, right? Um, so that power plan, you could actually download it to a cycling computer. So you're getting real-time prompts as you're on the course. You start going uphill. Maybe your average power was going to be 150 watts. But when you go uphill, the plan wants you to hold 170 watts. When you're in the flats, it's more like 150 watts. And on the downhills, it might be 130 watts, that your average power will be around 150 watts. Now, a lot of new athletes don't have a power meter. Um, so they set up, in their training, they set up heart rate zones. So then RunDot or TriDot will be able to tell them, On the flats, this is where you want to keep your heart rate. Let's say it's 150 beats per minute. You want to keep it here. It's okay if it strays from time to time up to, it's going to give you a cap. Let's say it's 162. That doesn't mean be there all the time, but it's okay if you see 162 from time to time. The sweet spot is 150 beats per minute. Then if it's a hillier course, it's going to give you a recommendation on a hill that's roughly going to take you 2 minutes or less. It's okay to let your heart rate go up to 165. Actually, a shorter hill, it will let you go up a little bit higher, let's say 170. And then a long hill, that might be a mile climb. It will suggest keep your heart rate no higher than like 165. So they have an effort to pace. This sets them up for the run as it sets up a pacing program for the run. Um, so it tells them what they're, if they're properly trained, it should set them up for success that they complete. They feel great all the way through to the end. Well, as great as you can feel in a 70.3. They're all hard no matter how many times you've done them. But then the other nice thing is because you know how long you're in the swim for, the bike for, and the run for, you're able to figure out how much fluid do I need to take on this bike. I'm going to be on the course for 3.5 hours. Okay, I got to think about, if I'm taking in 200 calories per hour, then I need 700 calories on my bike. So I need to plan to take that in. I lose 20 ounces of fluid per hour. So I want to replace, 20, 40, 60 um, 70 ounces of fluid while I'm on the bike. Now I'm set up for success for my run. I know that I'm properly fueled, properly hydrated, and now I'm going to be on that run course for 2 hours, and I know how much stuff I need to carry with me. The other cool thing that it does is if the wetsuit is, if the swim, if it's wetsuit legal or not legal, you can actually select that when you're, fine tuning your racing execution plan. So if you select, it defaults to wetsuit not legal. So you just flip the toggle and make it wetsuit legal. All of a sudden your swim performance might improve.
Mhm.
Or I swim pretty well that sometimes I do that toggle for a sprint distance triathlon and I save 15 seconds. And I go, is it worth me putting on a wetsuit for a 450-yard swim? I don't know. This
For
is the
15
first try of the
seconds.
season. It's probably going to take me longer than 15 seconds to get this thing off. So I might actually lose time. So my decision might be I'm going to go without the wetsuit.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see that. The other nice thing is it's also normalizing for race day environment. So when you add your race, I added mine back in November for Maine, and it gave me the weather predictions. It's looking at a 10-year historical average. But when you're 10 days out from the race, it's actually pulling in the real data. So like I said, it's got me at a 442 now, but let's say that's going to be in 72-degree weather, lower humidity. We get to race day, it's going to be 85 and hot. That time might drop down to 5 hours because I can't perform at the same
Yeah.
intensity in 85-degree weather as I could in 70-degree weather. So it's going to dial that in. The other thing I think about for athletes is what time, the time of day. You're gonna select like the time of day of the race start. Say the race starts, main starts at, I want to say maybe it's 6:30 a.m. It could be 7 a.m.
Hmm.
So the thing I'll do with my athletes is I know what kind of swimmer they are at, so I know roughly when they're going to enter the water. We know that in an Ironman race, it takes about an hour for all the athletes to enter the water. If they're a middle of the pack athlete, I want to set that race time for, let's say it's a 6:30 start. I want to set their race start time for 7 a.m. because say they have a 45-minute swim, then they know, then RaceX is looking at what is the temperature when this athlete gets out of the water at 7:45. We
Mm.
need to normalize the environment
Hmm.
and how our bike plan accordingly. And then if we're going to be on the bike course for 3.5 hours, oh gosh, now I got to do math. We'll say 8 o'clock to make things, so 8, 10, 11. So 11:30 a.m. is when I might be hitting the run course. Well, the temperature, if I went with that 6:30 default, it could be an hour difference and the heat could be 10 degrees difference. That's
Hmm.
going to impact our run. So I mean, you can get really into the weeds with RaceX. Um, I mean, you could dive pretty deep, and I'm happy to go deeper.
I'm just curious. So say you have an athlete who doesn't want to do these time trials. They just don't want to do it. They have no interest in doing a time trial, okay? Will RaceX still predict their time accurately from the data that they put into the program?
Uh, Depends if they have a power meter or not.
Say they don't have a power
Yeah,
meter.
if they don't have a power meter, there's nothing to quantify. They're training by heart rate. So
Hmm.
my athletes that don't have a power meter, what I do is I have them do it, in TriDot, there's a 10, 15-mile time trial, but I find that's a little, and
Long.
we're actually changing some of that
It's
soon.
very long.
Um, but some athletes that might be an hour.
Yeah,
Their
yeah.
their best effort, a bear chasing them. It's gonna take them 1 hour. Like that's a lot. So I try to meet the athlete where they're at, and I suggest usually a 10-mile time trial.
Hmm.
If that's gonna take them 40 minutes, then I might suggest an 8-mile time trial. And I want it to be on a flat course that they can repeat several times when we come to the nicer weather for us folks up here in New England, that they can repeat, and just start their Garmin, all right-hand turns, I tell them, so they don't have to wait for hopefully stop signs or any of those things, and we can get kind of an accurate picture. Uh, then, if they do a 10-mile time trial, well, with technology now, I can calculate, well, if they were continuing on at this velocity for 5 more miles or 7 more miles, if they were going to cover 8 miles, how long would we expect for 15 miles? Maybe it's 50 minutes. So then I can enter that in, and then it's going to reverse engineer based on this rider's weight, and the time that it took them to complete 15 miles. Here's roughly where their power is, and now we can actually make a prediction as to, within 5 to 10 minutes in that scenario, as to what their expected finish time is. If their power, well, we have auto detect coming. So as long as the athlete's doing their training, they're going to get updates every once in a while. Hey, we detected a new FTP. Maybe it was 150 watts. It's 158 now. Do you want to accept? Yes. I'm looking forward to that because I test all right, but I don't look forward to it. Uh,
Yeah,
so it'll be nice when it's there.
yeah.
Same token, if the athletes skipping workouts, not training, it's going to recognize that. And then when they go to do their next hard workout and it sees the breaks, it sees that they're supposed to say cycle 5 by 5 minutes at zone 4, and they're taking breaks halfway through, it's going to auto detect, oh, maybe we've lost a little fitness. We've detected your FTP is now 144. Do you want to accept? Yes. Same thing with the run, same thing
Hmm.
with the swim. So
Interesting.
it is coming in the days of AI, which will be quite nice because I do have those athletes that don't like to test. So I find ways to get them that maybe we test every 8 weeks or 12 weeks. We don't
Hmm.
test as often. I might ask them some questions. I might just nudge it up a little bit or back a little bit, depending on the athlete. That's where like having a coach can be super helpful.
Absolutely. And, so that's funny that you mentioned that because that was my next question, right?
Mhm.
TriDot and RunDot does amazing things. What's next for the platform? What's next for RaceX? You already alluded to the FTTP
Yeah, auto
upgrades,
detection.
and are there any other new developments on the horizon?
Glad you asked, and I can share this. We have a new app coming out really, really, really soon on TriDot. It's already out on RunDot, so if you're curious, you could download the RunDot app. You would just have to use a different email address because it won't let you use the same one for TriDot. If you want to just poke it around, it's got a fresh, new, sleek look, where with RunDot and soon to be TriDot, and it's a matter of 2 to 4 weeks now as of this recording on March 23rd. The new TriDot app will be out. You don't even need, you can just download the app, press play, and go out and bike. You don't need any equipment. It's going to use your phone to track. So for that new athlete that's like, I don't have the money to get a Garmin, I just want to go out and, swim, bike, or run. Um, the swim will be some manual entries, but for the bike and the run, a lot of people have that phone mount right on their bike because they're using their cell phone as their cycling computer. So really looking forward to that. Within the app, it's going to have like a community feel to it as well. So you're going to be able to connect with other TriDot and RunDot users within the app. There'll be different groups that a coach could add, an athlete could add. Like I mentioned, I'm running the Boston Marathon. So once it's out, it's like the first thing I'm going to do is add a Boston Marathon group so I can network with some of the other athletes that are running Boston. Um, so it's going to create like a nice little community
That's
feel.
awesome.
You can see, oh, I'm going out to Oceanside in April. You can see what athletes are going out there. So really looking forward to that. As I mentioned, auto detection for FTP is coming really soon. So won't have to test as often. My high performing athletes, I might still test them every once in a while, just so we know exactly
Mm-hmm.
where they're at when it matters most. When they're starting that race preparation phase, I probably want to test them. And then maybe 8 weeks before their big race, maybe I want to test again and just make sure that we have our targets aligned. I wouldn't necessarily do that for my intermediate or beginner athletes, because they're just more looking to finish, improve their time. So as long as it gets them there, the athlete's happy, I'm happy.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
lot of new coach features coming down the line as well, that we'll be excited about, like more flexibility on scheduling workouts for athletes. Um, Being able to add or remove sessions. Aqua Bike's a biggie. So within TriDot, being able to remove the run completely for those aqua bikers. Right now, you can set the run to one run per week, and then just you skip that run. So maybe instead of 3 swims per week, you're doing 4, knowing that you're skipping the run that it's giving you. So you'll actually be able to set aqua bike, and then the run gets removed completely. So more features like that coming down the line.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really, really exciting. I love that the RaceX, that RunDot and TriDot are so innovative, and things are always changing and things are always improving for athletes. So for those athletes out there interested in learning more about RunDot, TriDot, any suggestions?
Yeah, get in touch with myself or Hilary. I'm sure you're going to have some coach notes in there with some more information, maybe a link to
Of course.
you have a trial that you can offer the athletes both on TriDot and RunDot. So if you're curious, click Hilary's link. You can set up a free trial. There's no credit card needed in a free trial. So if you're curious, you can poke around. You'll start in a 14-day trial, and you'll be right on Coach Hilary's dashboard. So she'll connect, she'll be able to reach out to you as soon as you set up an account and introduce herself. And if you have any questions or need support, you can always reach out to myself, Hilary, or our support team is phenomenal. That's what
Wow.
they're there. The other nice thing about, coaching on TriDot or coaching on RunDot is if there's ever something that I would need to help troubleshoot if I was working on another platform, usually it's the coach. We're a one-man show or a
Yeah.
one-woman show. We're the Garmin troubleshooting, we're the tech support, but that's what we have. So our coaches can focus on coaching. And if Hillary has a question that she can't answer for an athlete, she can pass that right over to our support team if it's more on the techie side that something's not working, and they're very responsive getting back and solving the problem so that us coaches can really focus on the human aspect of coaching and really getting to know our athletes and catering to them best.
Well, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome. Well, thanks for having me. We'll do this again soon.
Without a doubt. This show was produced by Hilary Topper and sponsored by the Russo Law Group, Long Island's signature elder law, estate planning, and special needs law firm. For more information, visit vjrussolaw.com. And PlayTry, your multi-sport specialist for all your triathlon needs. They have so many opportunities, including franchising. If you love the sport of triathlon, check out playtry.com and learn more about opportunities, or if you want to shop there, check them out. They've got great prices and they've got amazing customer service. out.